ball. Metcalf connects and the ball flies deep in the outfield. They complete a second run. The scores are level. The third run will win the match. Grout makes a great effort, but the bails go off and he's run out.
I should think it was probably the most fabulous match in which I've ever played.
The scores are tied. 1 wicket left. Paul bowling the 7th ball to Klein. Metcalf is run out, and the match has finished in a tie. The first in Test history, and a fitting end to one of the greatest Test matches of all.
A most fabulous Test, the Australian captain, Richie Benaud. The first Test of the series, Australia versus the West Indies, Brisbane, 1960, the fabulous tie. Captains Richie Benaud and Frank Worrell go out to toss on a warm morning in December, and on this ground 2 years before, England scored 19 runs before lunch on the first day. This is an entirely different story. Play starts with Davidson open the bowling to Hunt, and the first scoring stroke is a 4 through mid-off. This is the only film of this famous match, and like an art treasure, it has become priceless as the years roll by. Davidson to Kanhai, and again his first scoring stroke is a 4. 2 West Indian batsmen, 2 first scoring stroke, and now Sobers a 4, so 3 players have come in and each scored a 4. Yet for all this, in the first hour of play, Davidson takes 3 wickets, and the West Indies are 3 for 65 after 1 hour of play. And looking back now, Alan Davidson, 14 years later, must give you a thrill to see that start again.
It's a fabulous Test, Norman, no matter which way you look at it. Right from the first ball, as you say, the first ball was a 4, and so as each batsman came in, their approach to cricket was the right approach to cricket. It was meant that the ball was there to be hit, and they hit it.
Well, you had played in that Test 2 years before against the English team. I don't suppose you could believe it when you saw the scoreboard after an hour. You had 3 wickets against your name, and yet you've been hit all over the ground.
I think I had something like 3 for 39. They were my figures, I think, from about the first hour. And normally you would say, well, that's halfway through the afternoon, you've bowled your, say 12 overs or something like that, and you've got your 3 for 39. But to see it in the first hour, and then to see 130 before lunch, well, it's just something that I think this was the series of all series, though, really.
Alan, without going too far ahead in the story, just briefly, we're going to see now a partnership between 2 players, and one of them is Garfield St Auburn Sobers. Now, just tell me what you think of this innings we're going to see.
Well, that, I think, was technically the best innings, or not technically, but certainly the best innings I've ever seen in a Test match, because he just didn't beat the fieldsman, he bisected the fieldsman. It's the...
Drive takes the score past the 100, and even Benaud has to applaud the brilliance of Garfield Sobers. Worrell scores a single off the first ball of Mackay's over, and Sobers steals the limelight again. Sobers and Worrell have started their partnership, which yielded almost 200 runs. Worrell, playing the role of the lesser light in the combination, is making a valuable contribution towards the big score for the West Indies. They've recovered from the loss of 3 early wickets and are still maintaining the crowd-pleasing rate of more than 1 run a minute and nearly 6 runs an over. Sobers passed 50 in 57 minutes, and his innings at this stage included 8 fours. This is a timely return to form after his recent string of failures against New South Wales and Queensland. With lunch approaching, Benaud bowls and Worrell follows the pattern of his left-handed partner. At lunch, the West Indies have lost 3 wickets for 130, with Sobers not out 68 and Worrell not out 16.
Worrell's classical style blends in perfect harmony with the power stroking of Garfield Sobers, and this partnership has been rated by experts as equal to any seen in Australia in a Test match. Whether it's speed or spin, there's nothing Australia can produce to restrain these brilliant batsmen, and in this over it's left-handed Alan Davidson who comes in for some cavalier treatment. Sobers and Worrell maintain the fast rate of scoring against a consistent and varied attack. They race to a century partnership in 90 minutes with Sobers the dominating figure. These fellows have no respect for reputations, and Benno is given village green treatment in this over to Sobers. A new name appears on the scoreboard, and Lindsay Klein bowls his first over of the match. And although Sobers and Worrell continue to notch up runs, Klein is to prove the least expensive of all the Australian bowlers. Sobers, 99. Sobers, 100. A century which was rated by ABC commentator Johnny Moyes as one of the best he has seen in 50 years of cricket. Klein, the bowler now, to feel the might of this 24-year-old batsman who has just scored his 10th 100 in Test cricket. The Australian fieldsmen are relieved when the partnership comes to an end. Sobers spoons up an easy catch off a full toss from Mickett, and he's out for 132. This great innings lasted only 3 hours, and it included 21 falls. The partnership between Sobers and Worrell realised 174 runs, only 5 short of the record partnership set by Sobers and Walcott in 1955. 5 minutes later, Worrell is out. Court Grout bowled Davidson for 65, and the West Indians were 7 for 359 at stumps on the first day. Another 4 to Hall. 17 runs off the over. A high pitch of excitement as Hall needs 1 more for his 50. Wesley Hall, 50 runs in 65 minutes, and they're loving every minute. Hall, deceived by flight, stretches into the unknown. Grout whips off the bails, and Hall is stumped for 50. Hall receives a tremendous ovation for a remarkable half-century which included 8 fours. His partnership with Alexander yielded 86 runs, scored in only 69 minutes. Now Klein bowls to the number 11 batsman, Valentine. The leg by is only the 4th sundry of the innings. Alexander faces the next ball from Klein. He attempts to hit the ball out of the ground and watches as Davidson takes the catch. The innings is over, with Alexander the last batsman out for a highly creditable 60. The West Indies totaled 453, with Sobers, Worrell, Solomon, Hall and Alexander all scoring 50 or more. There's an atmosphere of tension as Wesley Hall comes bounding in. A full toss right at McDonald's head. A fiery opening by the giant bowler. This is real Test match heat, with Hall bowling at express speed from the start. Here comes another thunderbolt, and McDonald almost gets an edge. A really vicious ball. Straight at the batsman, and McDonald collapses in pain. McDonald was struck just under the heart by a ball which reared up from a little short of a length. McDonald, a tough fellow, is soon ready to face Hall again. Then Sobers strikes a great blow for the West Indies. McDonald plays an uppish leg glance, and Hunt takes a brilliant catch at leg slip. McDonald is out. Court Hunt bowled Sobers for 57. Here's the run for 100 up for Australia. The runs were scored in the reasonable time of 132 minutes, and at this stage Simpson is 36 and Harvey 6. 15 minutes later, Valentine is brought into the bowling, and this delivery bowls Harvey for 15. Simpson was out, bowled Ramadan for 92 in the final minutes, and it's O'Neill and Fabble who come out to open the batting at the start of the 3rd day. Valentine is given another spell, and Fabble, in his eagerness to score, loses his wicket off the next ball by Valentine. It's a close run-out decision, and Favell waits for the umpire to confirm his dismissal. It was touch and go, and Favell was a little unlucky to be run out after a fine innings of 45. With Ramadan bowling, O'Neill starts to attack. This burst of scoring is the best Australian batting of the innings. Valentine bowls, and O'Neill, with a straight drive, brings up his first century in a test match in Australia. They take a quick second run, and Australia is 9 for 500. O'Neill attempts a lofted drive. The ball soars high in the air, and Valentine, waiting at mid-off, takes the catch. During the day, the Australians scored 309 runs for the loss of 7 wickets. The outstanding batsman was Norman O'Neill, and his total of 181 was his best in a test match. His innings, which lasted 400 minutes, included 22 fours.
An extraordinary part about this, that after the first innings, 958 runs had been scored, Alan Davidson. Now, normally that would mean no result in the game.
Well, that would be an aggregate for any normal test match, Norman. And I think the big thing out of this was the fact that both sides got on with the job. Time is the important factor in winning test matches, and if you score your runs quickly, and in this case, well, we had big scores, but yet they were scored at a remarkable rate. I think when you look at that last bit of film too, you're seeing probably one of the greatest batsmen I saw in my lifetime, and that was a fellow called Norman O'Neill. And, you know, a lot of young people would never have seen Norman bat, but Norm was a tremendous player, a tremendous striker of the ball. His ability to play shots to all parts of the ground. I think, you know, you saw him play a sweep, you saw him play a pull shot, on drives, off drives, back foot drives. There wasn't a shot that he didn't have, and when he was going, well, there was just no holding him.
And that, in fact, was his highest score, I think, in Test cricket, wasn't it?
It would be, I think, Norman.
Yeah. But even as a bowler, Alan, if you've got batsmen playing shots against you like that, do you prefer that rather than pinning your batsman down?
I prefer it all the time. Actually, it's one of those things that if a batsman is playing shots, he's actually taking risks in many cases.
One thing at that stage, did you feel that you could get a result in the game, if you can call a tie a result? Well, it's a finish, isn't it? You've got to finish.
Well, this was the thing. There was only 2 days virtually to go then after this great performance. But even then, I think that while the game is going, you always feel, I think this is one of the great things about an Australian team, that while there is time, there is always hope that you will get a decision. And we always played in that particular period of our careers, we were playing to win every game. And so basically, even though there were only 2 days to go, we were still looking for a win.
Well, here it is. Let's continue the story. And this is the start of the early part of the West Indies' second innings. And once again, it's Alan Davidson who scores an important breakthrough. He bowls here to Sobers.
A fast-swinging Yorker, and Sobers is clean bowled. Sobers made 14 runs, and the West Indians have lost 3 for 114. Worrell comes in, and Benno bowls to Kanhai, who needs 3 runs for his 50. Kanhai scored his half-century in the smart time of 90 minutes. A few minutes after the adjournment, Alan Davidson catches the wicket of Kanhai, who's caught behind by wicketkeeper Wally Grout. Grout has now figured in 6 dismissals, and Davidson has now captured his 8th wicket for the match. Solomon comes in, and Lindsay Klein moves in to bowl to Frank Worrell. A heavy responsibility rests on the shoulders of these 2 players, because only Lashley and Alexander have any claims to batsmanship. Solomon is content to keep his wicket intact and leave the run-getting to his more experienced partner, and Worrell does just that. He's batting quite well now in that graceful, fluent manner which has always been a feature of his play. The vital partnership is brought to an end by Alan Davidson. The brilliant left-arm bowler takes his 4th wicket when Frank Worrell snicks a catch to Grout. Worrell is out for 65, the same as his score in the first innings. A grand performance by the veteran West Indian captain. Worrell and Solomon added 83 runs, and the score is 5 for 210. Alan Davidson follows up his great effort with another wicket. Lashley clean bowled without scoring, and the West Indians faced the very real prospect of outright defeat. The fifth and last day of the Test match. There are rain clouds in the sky, but the weather cleared shortly afterwards. The players are on the field for the start of one of the most eventful days in the history of Australian cricket. Play begins with Davidson bowling to Valentine. Hall and Valentine have added 24 runs, but more important still, they've used up half an hour of valuable playing time. After some minor incident, the innings comes to an end in Davidson's over. Hall clean bowled, and the West Indians are all out for 284.
Well, Alan Davidson will be very happy to see that. What, 6 for 87?
Yes, Norman, and I must admit that a couple of things came off in that second innings. The Yorker that bowled Sobers, the Yorker that bowled Hall at the finish. A couple of things that you try, they do come off, and when they do, of course, it puts your side in a position where you can win, and of course you're always looking for that. And I must admit that they did hold us up for that half hour on the last day. We thought we were in a very good position, actually, before stumps on that second last day.
Well, let's continue the story. A sensational start again to the Australian second innings, 233 to win. Wickets tumble straight away, and here's another wicket falling.
Neil Harvey snicks and Sobers takes a brilliant catch. Sobers dislocated his finger taking the ball, and Alexander, a veterinary surgeon by profession, applies first aid. Les Favell attempts to hit his way out of trouble with his team on the verge of utter collapse. The ball reaches the fence, and it's certain that Hall will be stung by the boundary. The crowd anticipates a super-fast delivery, with Hall running into bowl. And he's out, put by Solomon in the leg trap. And Australia faces outright defeat with 5 wickets down and 186 runs still required to win. Hall has the splendid figures of 4 for 37, and both Mackay and Davidson have just arrived at the wickets. Worrell is the bowler, and the batsmen attempt to start an Australian recovery in a tense period of cricket. The score climbs slowly through the 70s and on into the 80s, and every run is conceded grudgingly. Finally, Hall is taken off, and Garfield Sobers comes on in his place. Mackay and Davidson have weathered the violent spell, and runs come more quickly against the medium pacers. The bowler at the grandstand end is little Sonny Ramadan. Mackay beaten is clean bowled, and Australia, with 6 wickets down, is still 141 runs behind. Mackay scored 28 runs, and Australia has 92 on the board. Richie Benaud survives an appeal for caught behind off Ramadan's first ball. The Australians have reached the end of their batting lineup, and the result of the match hinges on the performance of the 2 players at the wickets. Davidson and Benaud rise to the occasion, and this is the start of a great partnership. Davidson and Benaud put on a century partnership, and the game is building up to a dramatic climax as Hall bowls with a new ball at 20 minutes to 6. "17 runs to win. It's a real grandstand finish, and Richie Benaud is getting anxious with 15 minutes left. It's going to be a photo finish result with the whole ground in a state of feverish excitement. Davidson attacks, and away they go for another run, and they require 16 to win. Yes, 10 to make and the match to win. a breathless hush as they bowl, a tremendous cheer as they score. 9 runs to get, 10 minutes to go. A push to leg, a suicidal run. They scamper home, 8 to win. Sobers the bowler. Benno plays the ball to mid-wicket. They start down the pitch and Davidson is run out by a magnificent return from Solomon. Davidson run out for 80. What a grand cricketer he is. 40-odd runs in the first innings and 11 wickets in the match.
Well, Alan Davidson, and I believe that is the only occasion in Test history that one player took 10 wickets and scored more than 100 runs in a match.
That's right, Norman, yeah.
Well, what were your feelings right at the moment you were run out?
Well, just the same as they were then. I could cry. Really, Norman, I think that's probably, you know, when I think back on it, I think that's the best innings I've ever played because of the wicket. You know, as I say, it was a normal fifth-day wicket. But it wasn't easy, but I don't think I hit a ball off the middle of the bat in the whole innings. And I can still think of going back when Slasher, I joined Slasher at 5 for 57, and he gave me the normal story, no run-outs as I got to the wicket. Then at 6 for 90 odd, when Richie came in, that very first ball that the people saw, I still don't know to this day how it missed bowling him. It went between his bat and pad, and I thought it must have bowled him, and fortunately it didn't. But it was a feeling of sadness, really. I was nearly in tears, I can assure you.
But Alan, in retrospect, if you had not have been run out, the finish wouldn't have been there.
Well, this is right. I think probably this was the greatest thing that happened for cricket, not just here in Australia, but for the West Indies and for all other competing countries in Test cricket.
Well, that finishes of the moment as part of your story. Now, to continue the story, we're going to go to the man who who felt most of the atmosphere for Australia, and he's the last man in, Lindsay Klein. As we watch Benno and Davidson batting, Lindsay Klein was sitting in the dressing room and he speaks of the story of the atmosphere of this tremendous match building up to the climax.
Most of us are superstitious in most sports, and Slasher more so than any of the other players in that team. And Davo and Benno started to get on top, and we started to develop that partnership. And Slasher had us sitting in our chairs and wouldn't allow us to change chairs. If we needed to go to the toilet or change our gear or do something like that, we had to do it in between overs and be back before the ball was started, before they bowled the ball the next over. So it was very, very, very tense in the dressing room, with Slasher causing this everyone to sit tight on the particular chairs.
Now, on now to the last over of the match, and this is Hall bowling to Grout. Now, the first ball here, they take a run here. Benno's very anxious to get the strike, and they race through for a single, and Australia only wants 4 runs to win with 7 balls to go. Now, Hall coming in for the second ball. Radio commentary here, Clive Harburg and Johnny Moyes.
And he's out. Caught the edge, and he's caught behind by Alexander. Gracious me. 8 wickets for 228. Well, what a test match. Moves in, bowls to make it. Forward to it, drives it. Ball now to make it. Moves in on his leg stump. Tries to sweep it, and here's a stolen single, and he might be run out, and Hall misses the stump. Ball to Grout. Grout skies him. 3 of them, 4 of them getting under it. Canhigh gets it, and it's dropped! It's dropped! Hall and Canhigh ran in for it. 4 of them converged on the ball. Shirt trailing behind him. Bowls to Mickiff. Mickiff pulls him high into the outfield. 4 runs. No, it won't get to the fence. They're going for the 3, though. Grout slides his bat behind the line. He's flying fast, and he's out! Run out! Run out! Grout, run out! 2 runs only. Australia still requiring 1 run to win. Lindsay Klein, the last man. And here's the single that wins the match for Australia. He's out! He's right out! Right out! The stumps are thrown down.
One last thing, the thing that made it such a fabulous match, what was it?
Well, I think the fact that when we went back after tea, we still wanted, I think, 128 in about 120 minutes. And as we walked out, Richie and myself never said a word. As a matter of fact, we were pretty silent. But when we got out there, he just turned and he says, well, let's give it a go. And I said, okay. And I believe that that was what made the series. A lot has been said about how the West Indies made the series, but I believe that in that last 2 hours, it would have been so easy for us to have just played for a draw. And yet, with 6 wickets down, Richie said, let's give it a go. And I believe that was the thing that made it, and I can't praise Richie enough.
So those are the comments of Alan Davidson. I'm sure you must have enjoyed that fabulous and unique is the right word for it, that cricket film, Australia versus the West Indies, The Fabulous Tie, a great sports classic.
This has been a Fox Sports presentation.